Hey Flo,
Hey Nikki.
do you have your coffee ready?
Yes, girl, I'm ready. Are you ready?
Yes, let's get into the chats.
Let's get into the chat. Welcome to the chat with Flo and Nikki. I'm Flo Wellington. I'm a author, publisher. I'm also a fashion designer, a wellness coach, and a mom. Um, and with me is my co-host Nikki. Nikki girl, how's it going?
Hi Flo, I'm doing well. So just to introduce myself, I'm Nikki. I lived in South Korea for 10 years where I was an English teacher. And about a year ago, I came back to South Africa and started pursuing my purpose. I'm currently in the process of writing my first book. I'm
Mm.
a Reiki practitioner and a life coach. Yeah, so that's me.
And it's
Welcome to the
funny.
chat.
Welcome to the chat. Hey, it's funny that we met in South Korea. Imagine two girlies from South Africa who met in South Korea and decided to just go on this mad mission. Can you believe it?
I know. And to think that we talked about this for so long, do you remember our first chats on WhatsApp? We would just have these amazing conversations, and I just kept telling you, like, we
This
should
should
be
be a
recording this,
podcast. This should be a
right?
podcast. And here we are in our non-podcast
Here we
podcast. I
are.
love that. I love that.
Love it. I love it.
Yeah. And in getting to the point of episode one, it's always difficult when you're venturing out into something new. What does it need to look like, and what should it be about, and who's going to be listening? What brought you to the chat? I'm interested in knowing what's Nikki's feelings about what the chat is about. What do you feel this chat is going to reach out there?
I love that question. And it's, so exciting for me because at the age of 37, I find myself in this era of being, fully an adult, but also feeling that fear of, oh my God, 40 is approaching and then 50, and
Mm,
starting to think about getting older.
mm,
But at the same time, I'm having this excitement about how, I don't know, I feel more wiser. I
yes.
feel like I'm learning more about myself. I'm learning more about women. And I feel that we don't talk a lot about how exciting it is to become older, how exciting it is to know more and to get more mature and the growth we do. And I just feel there's this space where, especially women, can come together and just share, talk about what is great about getting older and also the challenges. There's so
Mm,
many things that we just don't talk about. And I feel a great void in my life to have these conversations. I want to talk about all things related to women, related to aging, identity, spiritual health, spiritual growth. Like, and I feel there's a void. We need to talk about these things. I want to talk about it. So that's why
100%.
I'm here.
100%.
What about
And
you,
let me
Flo? How
tell
do you
you,
feel?
me now at 41, I just had a birthday a week ago. So I've
Ooh,
crossed that 40 point. I'm in my 40s now. Girl, it is an exciting time. And it's true what you're saying. There is this gap. Like, you know how in industry talk, you say there's a gap in the industry, or you find your niche
mm,
market. I feel
mm,
that there are things that I'm learning now as I crossed from 35 and onwards as I got older, and then getting into my 40s. There are things that I'm learning now that I felt I should have learned earlier, or I
Mm,
wish somebody had told me a little more about that.
yeah.
Things that happen to our bodies as we age,
Yeah.
things that we can
Mm,
expect emotionally, mentally, because all those things
mm,
are related in some or other way, but nobody
yeah.
really is guiding you. They tell you there's stuff that's going
Yeah.
to happen, but they don't tell you what stuff's happening. It's almost like you've got to figure it out for yourself. Whereas that's such an unnecessary thing. The honest, open conversations are what helps us to change narratives. It helps us to navigate better through certain phases of our lives if we are teaching each other
Yeah.
how to cope with certain body changes, how to cope with hormonal changes, how to cope with career choices and family life and navigating friendships. Because even that, as simple as it sounds, friendships change with age. And you need to know how to navigate that because you can't be treating your friends the same way, or relationships in general, the same way as what you did 2 decades ago. You know what I mean? So those are the things
Yeah.
that I'm looking forward to in the chat with Flo and Nikki. Those are the conversations that I really want to bring to the table where we have that platform for people to say, I can relate. I know what that means. Or I never thought about it that way. Or why didn't anybody say that? That's so important to me at this point in my life where we unbox and we blow the lid off those little taboo topics that people want to hide. And now you're in your 40s and you're figuring out that, oh, this thing exists, and now you have no clue what to do.
Absolutely. I love all of that. And particularly the part where you mentioned that, we all go through the same thing, sort of,
Mm,
especially in terms of, the biology of women.
mm,
And yet there's so few conversations about these very topics, especially from maybe older women. I relate to you in that I wish that I was told many things that I could expect at certain ages. I even think to as young as when I got my first period, I had no idea what was happening. And even after maybe what 2 decades later, I still have things that happen to me where the older people are not telling me, oh, yeah, you're at that age. You should probably expect this. Or,
exactly.
hand me a book with, the topic of, I don't know, perimenopause or what's happening in your uterus. I don't know
Oh,
if there is a
girl,
book like that, but
menopause. Huh,
I would have
that
loved a book, about that.
and you know what?
So,
You're saying like you would have loved a book. It doesn't always also need to be something so formal. Like how, and I'm not
mm,
to
a
romanticize it,
book will do.
but imagine if your grannies and your aunties or, women came together and they made little notes and they put this little thing together. And now, when you, let's say, 21, and they hand you this book of life lessons or things that you need to look
Mm,
forward to, or this is what's going to happen to your body as a woman or as a boy child, even, this is what you can
yes.
expect. And that is such a very beautiful thing that we can share as communities. And I particularly think about in with us as people of color, we tend to hide and shy away from those sort of conversations. It's almost like
Yeah.
it's too private and it's too personal, and
Mm,
you've got to go through it
shameful.
yourself. Change of life. Do you remember that phrase? Change of life.
I know. I heard about it, but I never knew what it meant.
Change of life. Imagine. And there's
I still
change of
don't know
life
the
every
symptoms.
5 years. Oh
Yes.
man, no. I think that's where, as you say, there's this void that we really trying to push, in the chat. Um, that's really that's really the crux of why we're doing this, isn't it? Our non-podcast podcast. And I mean,
Yes.
we're not trying to prescribe, obviously. We are not doctors, we are not psychologists, we are not therapists to that extent. We have our experiences, we have our knowledge that we've learned over years and over time, and we're just trying to create a space where we are sharing, and we want people to feel comfortable to talk about these things, and we want each other to feel comfortable. I'm sure there are things that I will definitely want to talk to you about, and then there are things that in our conversations I'm always learning things from you, and there are things that obviously I think that you would want to talk about and hear from me, I'm guessing.
Absolutely. I think, and not to sound selfish, but I think of this almost as a platform for me to learn, because when we talk, I'm always growing in that conversation.
Mm,
And I leave the conversation feeling, lighter, but also more enlightened. So this chat is for me to grow as well. And then what I love about the non podcast idea is that others can join the conversation, and hopefully they can have the same benefit.
for
Not that every
sure.
conversation or everything we're going to talk about is going to be so enlightening. Like, I'm not saying that, but that you can get something from it and
Mm,
you can add to it, enlighten us with your ideas and your thoughts as well, because this is my biggest, um, I don't know if it's a guilty pleasure, but I'm a glutton for information. I love hearing people's wisdom. I love getting that, and everybody has something to offer. So I am excited about that. I'm excited about learning from you. I'm excited about hearing your experiences, because that's how I learn. I learn from others'
mm.
experiences, and I love that. Like, I love that. So that's what I'm most looking forward to.
Would you say that is a part of growth for you? Would you equate learning to growth in that sense? Would you say that you as a person, that learning and acquiring information and absorbing information from people, that is you growing?
Absolutely. I feel, I saw something on Instagram the other day, and someone was saying you need someone else to see parts of you that you can't see.
Mm,
And this person mentioned the shadow self. He was
mm,
like, your shadow is often behind you, and you need someone to look at you to see it so that they can tell you about yourself. And
wow.
I always think of learning as a co creation. It's
Mm,
two people or more that's part of this learning experience. One person, you can read something, but even reading is co-creating because somebody else wrote it.
mm, mm.
So we need others to learn. We need others to gain more. And as you gain more, that is growth, I feel. And if you can
Exactly.
absorb it, the good that people are sharing with you, I mean, how can it hurt you? So
Definitely.
I value communication. I value that sharing of knowledge so
Mm.
much. Like, I think it's an invaluable experience that's happening. And so I urge people, always talk, tell the thing that's happening in your brain, get it out so that somebody can fill you with more knowledge or their own experience. And that just builds and builds and builds.
Mm.
And when you leave that conversation or that experience of sharing, you just feel like, wow.
And
I don't know, that's just me.
yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think also part of that growth in allowing the external to go internal, because we often neglect that the brain itself is constantly asking questions, even during the most mundane things. It's how is my body feeling? Do I need to do some healing? Do I need to do some repairing? The body is always asking itself questions. And in that information absorption and acquiring that knowledge, the minute you ask a question, the brain is going to try and answer it.
Mm,
And you cannot answer it
yes.
for yourself because you don't
Mm,
really know everything. As much as we'd like to think the older we get, we know so much and we 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 know everything. There are things that the brain will ask itself, and you'll need to go and find somebody to actually share that knowledge with you, or you'll need to go and read
mm,
something or watch something. I mean, our phones and the internet is now our go-to for access of information. But there is that sharing that is necessary for growth. As you say, you needs to be two and three and a group, where we are bouncing ideas off each other. And in that sense, we are building blocks for each other, if I can say that.
I
Or
love that.
what was it you said to me? There was one time you said to me that we are, I'll get to it. I'll get to it. It'll come up in a chat again. Somebody needs to comment when we do go live. Somebody needs to comment and say, remind us what Nikki said about being a building block. I love what you're saying that, we need each other to grow. And I feel that somehow growth and maturity are separate things, but they link together as well. I don't know if you feel
Mm,
if you feel the same way that, they are mutually exclusive in some way. They are, what did we learn in high school? Symbiosis. There's a benefit to each other. Sometimes you think that high school didn't teach you anything, and there's nothing that it's gonna they come up at some
then
point
you
in
come up
life.
from
Then the words come. I feel that growth and
it.
maturity, as isolated as they are in various points in life, they are mutually exclusive. They do correlate and they do overlap, if you get what I'm saying.
Mm, I agree. I definitely see a connection. Um, I'm thinking of a graph, if one side is growth and the other side maturity, that line is going straight. How do you say? It's a very gradual,
An upward
that line that
projection.
just goes diagonally.
Yeah, I see it. I see it.
Um,
As if we're looking at a X and Y curve. If anybody who
yes,
does math
yes,
or economics would know, you see that X and Y curve,
yes,
and then there's growth on the one side and maturity on the other side.
growth goes on the other side as well. And I think if I look at my own growth, and this is why I love this age, okay, because there's a clear distinction between who I was 10 years ago and who I am now,
Mm,
right? And the growth
mm,
is, it's amazing.
mm,
So, with that um, growth came an emotional maturity. And I love seeing that.
mm,
And so I don't know if they always go together, but I definitely see it with myself. The emotional growth, oh, it's spectacular. Um, Maturity now becomes one of those top values, that not only I have for myself, but that I look for in others. How mature are you emotionally? Because perhaps it says something about your mindset. Like, do you have the propensity or the want, the desire to keep growing?
Mm,
Because like you say, the mind is always asking, questions, and we want to be better. We want to solve our problems. And so if you have that mindset to grow and be better, you are going to do that.
mm.
And if you do it right, then the emotional maturity will go along with it, I think.
And I think
I hope.
the right people will go along with it. I'm thinking in particular with when you realize in your life that you are growing, you often don't even realize you are outgrowing the people around you.
Mm,
You know,
mm,
you sometimes you feel some kind of way when you're no longer in contact with certain people that you were close with, or you can no longer relate to people that you used to relate to when you was maybe 5, 10 years younger, or in college, varsity, or that, or people you used to work with. There's certain points where you do realize that I've outgrown this situation. I've outgrown this job. I've outgrown this family member, even. And that's a hard thing to
Can I
do.
ask you? Can I ask a question? How do you get to that point? Like, what does it feel like? What does it look like? Or what is that moment where you go, I've changed. I've outgrown this.
I think for me, it's when it's two parts, I think. I think it's
Mm,
when I get very irritated and annoyed with a certain thing where I no longer feel driven to do it,
mm,
or excited to be around someone, or to go somewhere where I used to like going. I no longer want to
mm,
go there. I feel agitated, or I have an anxiety towards it, or, and then that's where I really sit like, okay, what is it about the place or the person that's changed? Or what is it about me that's changed that I no longer want to interact in that manner? And then
mm.
in the other sense, I think it's when it's no longer giving you the same feeling, you know? And I
Yeah.
think a particular example for me, I've been in publishing, let's say, I think close to 15 years now. But
Wow.
when I reached the 10-year mark a couple of years back, I think we were still in the lockdown period. When it reached 10 years, I was at a point where I was not feeling any fulfillment from it. I didn't want to, I couldn't even read for pleasure anymore because I would pick up a book and I'd immediately examine it cover to cover. What does the cover feel like? What does the editing look like? What does the fonts look like? And I realized that I'm now just in a monotonous kind of job
Yeah.
sort of thing. And I wasn't finding joy in my work anymore. And
Yeah.
I had to really take a look back because as a creative overall, that was my outlet for creativity. As an author,
Yeah.
it bridged into publishing over the years. But now I'm no longer finding the joy in creativity, in assisting people in bringing their works to life. And I had to really take a step back and I had to evaluate what other outlets do I have that can spark that joy of creativity that could possibly still help me to continue in publishing? Or is this a point of growth where I need to move on to something new? And I think that's what pushed
Yeah.
me to design work because I never looked at design um, as an option for my life, as much as I like to toy around with things. But that pushed me in that direction, where I was
Yeah.
at the point of is publishing still the best career choice for me? Should I stick to it? Should I keep growing the business? And at the same time, aligned with that, I was going through postnatal depression. So I needed something to boost me
Mm.
out of my comfort zone. And I knew it was not going to be my writing. I knew it was not going to be where I was. So I needed to move beyond my limitation and totally venture into something new. And that for me was a big growth moment where I took on a very, very new experience. I took on a very new skill. And here we are. 5 years later, we have a new venture going. And I
I
feel
love
it
that.
also gave me a sense of maturity. As much as it grew, it was growth in one sense, it opened up a new maturity into various other aspects of my life, I I'm a
Yeah.
very behind the screen kind of person. I not and I don't mean screen as in literally behind the phone or the laptop. I mean, I am a behind the scenes kind of person. I do the work and set up the platforms, and the work must speak for itself, or whoever else must push on and sort of take stage. But with
Yeah.
fashion, that pushed me into now being the brand, and I needed to be the face and I needed to wear the clothes to get the name out there. And that again made me I had to interact with people more and networking, oh Nikki,
Put
networking
yourself
is
out there.
girl. And I think with lockdown itself, it gave me a sense of comfort, because now I didn't need to interact with people. I didn't need to be on stage doing book readings or book launches and that sort of thing. So I was very much in my comfort zone. But then coming out of that, I had to mature. I had to say, I'm older. I've learned new things. I'm venturing into a new phase of life. Go beyond your limitation, and I cannot say that I'm not enjoying it. I'm really enjoying a different version of myself right now that I didn't possibly think was going
Mm.
to manifest at this point.
Mm. That's beautiful. It's like you become or you do one thing, right? And you think you love that thing and it's great. But when you grow, it's like you grow out of that box. That box becomes too small.
Right.
And it's like you have to step out and, get a bigger platform, get a bigger box. And I think that's what it sounds like to me. It's like you were behind the scenes and then you stopped feeling aligned with that.
Mm,
And
mm,
something, brought you out of, from behind the curtain and say, come on, Flo, you need to be center stage here. Let's try that. And then you actually liked it.
mm.
And I mean, it looks like a lot of fun.
It
So
is fun. It is fun. It's a very creative space to be in. You meet the most amazing people, and it's something that when you think about how your neurons are interacting, just trying something new. And a lot of what I do is
mm,
so self-taught. So I'll struggle through something. I'll watch a lot of YouTube tutorials, if I'm struggling with a certain design aspect or how to do a certain thing. And once you get it right, it's like boom, boom, boom. Everything is like fireworks in your
yeah,
brain. Like fireworks in your brain going off, and then you just want to keep going and keep going. I'm curious, Nikki, you, with
yeah.
with how that relates to you in terms of moving to Korea. Where did you find where did you find that courage, if I can say courage? Is it something that you always wanted to do, or was it a push that said to you, I need something new, I need to grow, I need to mature, that pushed you in that direction?
Oh, you're taking me back now. Um, you know, in the moment, I didn't think of myself as brave, or I don't even remember feeling scared. I I don't know exactly what made me do that because it was all very spur of the moment. I saw an ad, went for it, then that led to an interview, that led to a course, a TEFL course, it just went so
Mm,
fast. But when I think back now, I realize that I always had this feeling that I wanted to do something. I don't know if the word is different, or I just always had a feeling that I have to do something blank. I don't know what the word is.
outrageous.
And outrageous, something crazy. I don't know. But I'm always in this pursuit of finding my purpose or finding myself or something like that.
Mm,
And so I'm always in this process, and I sometimes get annoyed with myself that I'm always, on this growing journey. But I find that I move with my feeling,
mm,
like something feels right and I go for it. And Korea was one of those things that just, it's like when I saw that ad, something happened. It's almost like my brain took a photo of that moment.
mm,
And then in the interview, it's like that same feeling, like this is right. And then when I got there, I remember thinking, like, I was not scared at all throughout the whole process. I don't know who I was because I have anxiety, but I was not anxious at all. So that's how I know I'm doing the right thing, is when I just feel complete alignment with it.
I love that.
And I always follow that. So even with coming home, it was the same thing. It's like that feeling happens, and then I just trust it, and then I don't regret, I don't have fear. I
Mm,
just know it's the right choice. I don't know how I know, but I've learned to just trust that. And I wanted to say something about what you said earlier about not feeling fulfilled, and then that sort of pushes you to find something new, right?
mm, mm,
And I relate with that because sometimes I feel like, okay, everybody's doing this, but I don't feel like that's gonna make me happy, or that's not gonna lead to fulfillment for me.
mm,
And so I cannot go with that. And so my body is sort of used to, I don't know, like if it's just intuition or what it is, but if I'm in a place too long and I start feeling like this is not fulfilling, this is not giving me all of that, good feeling, like I'm not doing something helpful or I'm not doing something meaningful, then I don't like it anymore. I don't feel aligned with that, and I need to get out of it. And so that always pushes me to do something different. And a lot of people ask me, why did I leave Korea? Like, don't I want to go back? And I'm like, no, absolutely not. Like, I'm done.
Mm,
And everybody who knows me know that I loved being in Korea. Like, I felt home there.
mm,
But I no longer felt that fulfillment. I needed more. I needed to follow my purpose, and something was calling me home. And when I got home, I didn't know what it was. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I just know that I'm in the right place. And that's always been my driving force, how I get to see like what's good for me, what's going to work for me. And it also shows me like when I outgrow things, like I can feel it in my body, like this is just no longer it for me.
I love what you're saying about that being, you know, we call it many things, intuition, spirit, or you guided by the universe, or, you know, we call it a lot, we call it a lot of things, whatever you feel your inner or higher power is that's guiding you in that way. And it's so true that when it is right for you, you don't feel fear. You definitely don't feel any sort of restriction or regret or doubt when it really is aligned at the right time. I love that. I love it. Nikki,
Yeah, me too. Yes, girl.
you really you're stirring so much in me right now. I feel like we're having such a really beautiful heart to heart. It's more than just, you know, getting to understand what growth means to each other. Because you know when you sit with a thought and
Mm,
you think you are possibly the only one who thinks that way, or
mm,
you know, or why don't other people talk about this, or am I just being crazy,
yeah.
or am I? And it's so beautiful
Mm,
once you hear someone else talk in the same sort of voice or using the same sort of thought pattern. I'm you know when they say people you're getting goosebumps like throughout this
ooh,
chat. I've been getting goosebumps because it's just like light bulb moment after light bulb moment. It's like, yes, exactly. Yes, yes, yes. As you get older, those are the aha moments that come up, you know, when you talk about growth, when you
mm,
talk about maturity, when you talk about alignment, your intuition, all those things kick in at certain points in your life where you are just going yes to this and no to that. And you are firm on those yes and no's. Don't you think?
yeah. Yes, absolutely. And if I think about my 20s, like, you just do things. You don't even know what's happening. But now I am able to understand more what's happening with myself. Like I am more in tune with my thoughts, my emotions, my body. And I don't know if you can relate to this, but it's so wonderful when you understand yourself.
Do you?
And when you, hmm?
No,
What was that?
didn't mean to interrupt you. Do you feel that that is the ultimate adulting? Like I always tell you I hate that word, but do you feel that that feeling of having it together or it's all coming together, is that the adulting that they talk about? Like, are we now the adults?
I think, and it's funny because maybe in the last 2 years, I've become more like accepting of myself as the adult.
Mm.
But I think you might be right. It is due to this understanding of myself and creating or becoming the person that I truly am. you know. So I don't question myself anymore. I'm accepting my own thoughts, my own feelings, my own ideas as valid. Like I'm validating myself.
Ooh,
And I think I felt that too. I
right?
think I think there was a time, it's almost like imposter syndrome. It's not just at work, it's also in your daily life. You think that you are not capable of making decisions. And it depends on, who you have around you. If people are always treating you like they have to tell you what to do and you can't make decisions for yourself, then you tend to follow that, right?
Mm, mm,
But when you own the fact that nobody knows you better than yourself, nobody
mm,
understands your inner dialogues, your inner self more or better than you do. So
mm.
nobody can tell you anything about yourself. And I used to have that self doubt with anything. Like if I'm scared and somebody else tells me, no, don't be scared, is nothing. Then it's like, okay, I shouldn't be scared. What's wrong with me?
Mm,
But it's
mm.
like, no, if I feel scared, I have the right to feel scared. And if you don't want to validate my fear or whatever, I can do it.
It's
And
almost
I
like
can be
gaslighting
okay
yourself,
with
don't you
those
think?
feelings. It is.
Mm,
And I think that's why we struggle with that adulting is like, because you keep deferring to others to validate your existence. And it's like,
mm,
no, I don't care if my existence is different to yours or you don't agree with how I'm existing. I can still exist how I am. And if it's weird, if it's kooky, if it's bizarre, whatever, I don't care anymore. And I think that's what really made me feel more accepting of being an adult. And I feel like that is what made me just sit in it and be like, okay, maybe I am the adult. I can just listen to myself, you know?
You're
And
making me
it
think
took me a
of
while to get there.
you're making me think of, when we are kids and your parents tell you, this is my house, you got to do what I say. When you have your own house, you can do what you want. And we look
Mm.
forward to that. We want to be big, we want to be grown because then we can do what we want. And then when we get to do
Mm.
what we want, it's like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah. But you know what? Don't you think that, and we're going off topic now, but it's something I like talking about. It's also the conditioning, because if someone else is living in your brain,
Mm,
then what you are doing every day isn't always, or do you think it's always what you want to do? Or is it that other person's voice in your brain?
right.
So whether it's your parents, a teacher, whatever, they are living in your brain rent free. And that's why we often feel so um, misaligned with our life choices because we're doing something based on somebody else's idea of what life is, you
And
know?
expectations.
And yes, and you think you're by yourself, but it's like, I remember always like, I don't know, you're like judging myself, like, oh, I should probably do the dishes. But that's not me because
Mm,
technically I didn't care. I didn't want to do the dishes. But somebody else in my brain was saying I should be doing that.
mm.
So I just started to drown out those, like, just flick them with your finger, like whoever's in your brain, like they got to get out. And you just have your brain. And now I'm like more comfortable with doing or listening to what I want to do instead of always trying to tell myself what I should be doing or, girl, that should word,
Shoulda,
it's the
woulda, coulda.
enemy. Shoulda, woulda, shut your mouth.
Don't know where to shut your mouth. I
I'm
I
sick
I
of it.
feel you because that even spills over into how we view ourselves at this point in our lives. I mean,
Right, right.
you're 37, I'm 41. It's relatively close to each other. Like let's just say, like what is it you always say? You round off to the nearest 10. So I
I
mean, we're
do. In my
all
mind, I'm 40. Okay, I'm 40.
hey, some 40-year-olds will say, girl, you've got a long way to go. But
Yeah.
if if you think about how how society molds your idea of beauty standards, how your community molds your idea of what success is, and how you live through your teenage years and your 20s, you've got to push so hard. And I think that's why in our communities especially, people get married so very young, or they get
Mm,
into a steady career so very young because they are
mm,
pushed to this idea of what growth and maturity and adulting should look like. And then you hit
right.
35, and then that post 35 blast comes. I call it your adult adolescence, where
I
now
love that.
things are just happening to you, you know? You think differently, you move differently, your body is changing, you're making different choices. You no longer do the same things, like the same things. There's just a lot of stuff happening to you the same way with that, when puberty hits, there's just a lot of things going on, and you feel like, what the heck is all of this now? And we are pushed in a way when we are so, so super young to have it all together. Whereas that sort of growth and maturity is a gradual thing that where we are now in post 35 and 40 and beyond, where we are feeling that settled um feeling in ourselves where like how they say there's zero fucks given, and
Mm,
it's all of the accumulation that should not, and I feel this is just me, my feeling, there shouldn't be that much pressure in your youth to have it together, because it's a burnout, because you get to this age when you're older, and I think that's where we have this perceived idea of midlife crisis. I don't particularly think
yeah.
life crisis is a real thing. Psychologists can argue with me on that, but to me, I don't feel, because I just feel it's a natural progression of your growth and your change, and you having the right and the ownership and the agency to say, I want to change my life. I no longer like this thing. Or I've been, how we say in Afrikaans, a klooster for so long. Now I want to spread my wings and I want to wear tight clothes, and I want to venture into a different side of myself. I think that's a valid thing. I think it's people should be allowed to make those choices and changes.
Yeah, I agree. I personally do not like, how people make these life commitments at like 18 and in their
Mm,
20s. I'm like, I, I, I don't understand it. And I'm not saying people should not ever.
mm.
I just don't understand it because if you're 20 and you want to live until what, 80, 90, like why 60 years? At 20, you not even
Your
like I
brain is not even
it
developed.
makes me it makes me anxious when I think of like somebody at 20 getting married or having kids because you've now decided your whole life and I don't believe people are equipped to make such decisions at that age. And but I'm extra. So I like this age because I think people should be waiting for their 30s to make life term, long term decisions. And like you, I think we can change our minds at any time.
Mm,
I think things become harder when you have a family because you have more responsibility.
Mm,
And so you can't just, quit your job maybe, or decide to be a nomad or whatever. There are certain decisions that will be harder for you to make when you
mm,
have, a family. But for the most part, if you just live your life until your 30s and then make these life commitments, like why can't we do that? So I'm a firm believer in wait. Wait.
yeah.
There's no such thing as the clock is running out or I'm behind, or it makes me sad when people think like that.
Mm.
And I wish everybody can, not have that pressure. And sometimes we don't even know we have the pressure. We don't think because you're so conditioned that you just think this is normal.
Yeah.
But you are so conditioned, and it's, I think, in your 30s where you start to think about your identity, where you start to think about, well, do I like who I am? Do I want to be this version of myself? Do I want to keep describing myself as this or that?
Mm.
And then you get to make decisions about who you want to be. Who do you want, you know, how do you want the world to view you? And how do you want to view yourself? And
Yourself.
what makes you happy when you describe yourself as this? Does it make you happy? Does it make
And
you feel something about yourself? Um, and not just ego, So, yeah, but, people are different. I get that. And
I
people
mean,
do what,
when
the
you,
best that they can
yeah,
in the moment. So, not judging anybody, but
of course.
man, I wish everybody could be chill and wait and be patient with themselves, and yeah.
It's a beautiful utopia that we wish for, because obviously, you know, we
I'm an idealist.
it's very idealistic because sure we want to have time, and we want to be able to have that privilege to wait until a certain age for a certain thing. But obviously we've got economic challenges. We've got, families that need to be fed. If you are the first graduate in your family, everybody's looking at you as now you've got to get a job and you've got to provide. There are those challenges that life presents. But when we look inward, I think we can still wait in various ways. Yes, you've got to get
Yeah.
that job. Yes, you've got to provide. Yes, you've got to be certain things to different people. But who are you to yourself? And are you really
Mm.
taking the time to develop yourself without feeling I have to live up to a standard, or I have to live up to what is expected of me? I think that should be where our minds need to be. And I think that is what us as older people, when we always say, I wish somebody had told me. I think we are the generation that needs to sort of put a halt to that. The following generation should not still be saying, nobody told us. They
Mm.
shouldn't be coming generations that's saying, we didn't know about XYZ, or
Yeah.
didn't understand a certain thing, or I wish I had known. I think
Yeah.
we are at that point now, and especially with the information age that is growing so fast. I mean, content is out.
Yeah.
Content is content, and we are
Yeah.
sharing, and we are talking, and we are being verbal and vocal. And I think that's also where we we really need to push people to actually engage. I mean, talk about the
Yeah.
bullshit, stop making it a candy
Yeah.
coated thing. Say, if you're
Yeah.
feeling like shit, it's shit. You know, like
Yeah.
people have this tendency of saying, I don't know, a random thing. Oh, getting older is a beautiful thing, or parenting, let's say parenting, oh, it's so wonderful, it's going to be so fulfilling, but there are points where it really feels like, what the heck, and nobody
Mm.
wants to say that because you don't want to be seen as the bad guy. You don't want to be seen as the one who's failing. But people need to know that there are points where you do feel like you don't know what you're doing. And that's okay.
Yeah. That is something I find quite interesting to observe in people. That, I don't know, fear, that ego,
Mm,
not wanting to appear weak, not, I think that's the crux of it, isn't it? Not wanting to appear weak.
yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't understand that because I see full pictures, right? So
Mm,
if we look at parenting, the full picture is that it's challenging. The full picture is not that it's rosy and fulfilling. And so it's quite interesting when people paint just the rosy picture. And there's this, um, oh, what's the word? It's like a, oh, I don't know what the word is. If it's like an aversion to talking about the challenges,
mm, mm, mm.
like resistance to telling the truth about it, because why? I don't understand why.
I think people
Because you
just,
don't seem weak, because that's the full picture. The full picture is it's difficult. And why would people think that there's something wrong with you if you admit that? So it's always interesting for me to see how people want to always look at the bright side, or everything's always okay, nothing's bad. Like even on the hike I went on the weekend, it's like everything's gonna be fine, it's fine. Like if I say it's hard, then it's like, no, 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 you're fine. You're doing, I'm like, okay, I know it's the great part of it, but can we also acknowledge that it's hard?
it's hard.
Like, why is that so taboo to say that something is hard? I That's my biggest pet peeve with society, is like things can be hard and that's okay.
That's
Like we're still
okay.
gonna do it. Still gonna do it. We're still gonna get through it, but why is it so bad to say it's hard, or you don't know, or I just don't get it. I'm first in line to say I don't know what to do. I don't know. I don't know.
That's a thing that I had to learn over time. And it's also because I know a lot, that's just my vanity that comes up.
That
I know a
ego.
lot. Yes, I know a lot of things. I read a lot. Something my grandfather and I did when I was a very, very young child. We used to read the encyclopedia just for the sake of reading the encyclopedia, you know? So growing up, my general knowledge was always boosted in that way, and that I carried through right into my adulthood. So I know a lot of things, but I had to really teach myself. And that also came from being a parent, where if I don't know something, it's really okay to say, I don't know. And
Help
because
me.
you don't always want to be that guy in the room that has the answer to everything, because people don't people don't tend to take a liking to that sort of thing. If you always have the answer, or if you always have an opinion, or
Mm,
you've always got something to say around a certain thing,
yeah.
there I know I've got that about myself, but I've learned to hold back on that. And if I don't know about something, I will keep quiet and I will say, oh, talk more about that. And in that way, it brings us back full circle to what we started this chat with, that information sharing. That again helps you to grow, where you
Mm,
gotta sometimes silence yourself and actually really say, you don't know about this thing. What can you learn from somebody else, and give them that space to actually, and people open up in that manner as well, because a lot of people
yeah.
don't often easily share about what they know as an individual. So if you are coming with that same energy of I know, I know, I know, it sort of dims their light. And you don't always want to dim somebody's light if they are very excited about a certain topic. I mean, if you don't
Yes.
know, be quiet, listen. You could learn something extremely new that you didn't even realize you didn't know.
Yes. Absolutely. I actually quirk of mine, I guess. I like when people are smarter than me.
Mm,
I like being
mm,
around those people because I get excited because, oh boy, I'm gonna learn some new shit right now. But when I discover that I'm the smartest person in the room, I get turned off, kind of. Um, is that a judgment of the other people? I wonder. But I feel like I don't want to be in this room, you know? I want to be where someone can tell me
mm,
more about what I know because I too find that I know a lot.
mm.
And but I don't want to be the smartest person, you know? I want to be around smarter people. So I love like having older friends because just by your age, you should know more than me.
You should.
You learn more than me, you know?
I
So I
would,
love that.
would think older people.
And
No.
yeah, you have to be with the right people. But when you find them, it's so amazing. I'm like a child, you know, who's just a sponge. And my brain just wants to know all the information. But it's funny because I don't want to know um, things that are not important. I just
Mm,
want to know important things. I want to know about people. I want to know about life. I want to know how people navigate life.
that is such a cool
So,
thing.
you know,
I
I'm
feel.
like a glutton.
I think that's what we can. I think people. What I want anyone who's listening. I'd really like to know what is it that attracts you to people? What is it that makes you stay around certain people? Is it just their character? Is it something, that you feel you can, like how you're saying, you want to be around smarter people, you want to be able to learn things from people. Is that what people do, or do we stay around
Or are they just
like-minded people?
or like funny people or
Yeah.
people who can, I don't know.
What is it that makes you grow as a person? Is it the people that you surround yourself with? Or even, some people, they feel I'm grown enough. I don't need to grow. I mean, we want to hear, we want
I'm
to know.
healed. I'm
I'm
healed,
healed.
period.
I'm healed, period. I mean, that's the things we want to know. And that helps us also to understand ourselves. Like you just said, am I being judgy? I mean, we need to evaluate those sort of things. We need to interrogate ourselves sometimes. Am I being judgy? Am I, you know, do I need to tone it down a bit? Or is this just how it is?
Yeah. And I'm okay with it, you know, if I am judgy. But I'm I like that question actually. Like what makes you stay in the room with
What makes you
people?
stay in the
Oh,
room?
I love that. I love that.
I think that's where we need to go. I think that's where we need to to get our people talking. What makes you stay in the room? And I think on our next chat, we need to we need to really talk about that. What makes us stay in the room? Whether it's in a relationship, whether it's in a friendship, whether it's in a job, what makes you stay in a room?
I like that question.
Nikki, I like
Yep.
you. I like you so much, and I love our chat.
I like you too, Flo. That's why I stay in the room because we have amazing chats and we spit some like really profound little bits here and there. And so afterwards, I'm gonna be thinking about that a little bit more because, that's gonna allow my neurons to just grow and link up with new neurons.
And here's
And
to growing with age, growing beautifully, and getting better.
amen. Always getting better. I love that. Always getting better.
Always getting better.
You know, every day you know more than you did the day before.
100%.
And that in itself is growth. So every day we're growing, even in small increments. So yeah, let's keep growing and let's keep
Let's
chatting.
let's keep growing. Let's keep chatting. This was great.
I know, right?
See you in the next chat. Bye.
Bye.